What's going on, lads and lasses? Welcome back to 100% Mag. So of course today's video does unfortunately start with a bit of a somber mood, as we have had a passing in the Nufc family. Of course, Tommy Cassidy at the age of 73. Now Tommy Cassidy played for Newcastle United during the 70s, and around that period in time he was a really good player for Newcastle United. And he will of course sorely be missed, but he will never ever be forgotten, and of course, once a Geordie always a Geordie. He's done some fantastic stuff for Newcastle whilst he was at the club back then, and of course in 2021 it brought the sad news that he had been living with dementia since 2017. But he has now, if you want to put it that way, been given the ease of no longer having to live with that horrible disease that just ravishes any existence of the person that you once were. But my thoughts and prayers go out to, of course, Tommy Cassidy and his family and friends in what is a really difficult time for them, passing of course at the age of 73. Moving away from that, of course, to talk about the recent news regarding the St James's stacks, to try and lighten the mood in the video, of course. The recent news coming out regarding the St James's stacks outside of St James's Park is that the 3,000 capacity van zone will be opening for the Salah weekend on the 9th and 10th of August. And then, as we knew before it was getting built, it will be open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. To midnight, we have been told now. From what Newcastle United have released in the article over on the website, that the stacks at St James's Park will be open for operating hours between 10 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. So that means, there's going to be loads of people being able to go in there and, enjoy themselves. There's going to be live music on, there's going to be different stuff, loads of different venues as well for to go in for food. Plenty of street foods and a lot of local companies as well in there. So, it's going to be a hot spot in the city for a lot of people to enjoy. And a 3,000 capacity as well. If you can, add in hopefully some match day, from St James's as well. If we could get what we're seeing Shearer's Bar, where they show the match inside the bar from the stadium feed. If you could get that inside the stacks, that's an extra 3,000 capacity to go on to St James's Park on a match day, if that feed can be shown in St James's stacks, which I think it could be possible, considering that it's only just across the street from the Shearer's Bar, and Shearer's Bar is allowed, of course, to show that stream. So I'm sure, St James's stacks by, of course, Salah will be able to do that as well. But that's just massive news to see, that we are finally going to get that fan zone outside St James's Park. It's finally, of course, going to be opened. It was meant to be opened in time for the Euros, unfortunately got knocked back and delayed. But now, the news is out. It's going to be open 9th and 10th of August. And of course, it will open from midday on the 8th of August. That is when it will, of course, first start operating in the city centre next to St James's Park, Strawberry Place, just where the metro is, of course. And it's just great to see, that it will be finally open and finally being able to generate some money as well. That money as well, what is generated from that, will go to towards PSR in that as well. And of course, it is done by Stack, which is a Northeast company as well, and it's presented by Salah, which is our front of shirt sponsors as well. We're seeing some news last night and previous night, of course, that Newcastle were in talks with Sheffield United for William Osula. Now, there has been reports come out by Fabrizio Romano saying that William Osula to Newcastle is a Yahweh go, so Romano has given it the all go and his signature Yahweh go trademark to say that the deal in place for 10 million fee plus 5 million add-ons for the 20-year-old striker joining from Sheffield United. Final details being sorted, then time to sign all documents. That's coming from, of course, Fabrizio Romano. That was 6 hours ago last night, of course, that Romano was reporting that. And Keith Downey has reported today saying that Newcastle have agreed the fee in principle with Sheffield United for William Osula. The player has, however, not agreed personal terms as of yet. Therefore, no medical has yet been booked. Osula is seen as a third choice striker behind Isak and Wilson. But I've got to say, I've got to go with Romano. Unfortunately, non offense to Keith Downey on this one, but I've got to go with Romano because he has given it his signature "Here we go," and Romano only does that if it is a cert that this is going through, that it is 100% or pretty close to 100% of going through. So I'm going to go with Romano on this one. And I've got to say, I've looked at some footage of this lad and he does look really good. Obviously, he's going to be a third choice striker, maybe second choice striker as well, because Callum Wilson is out at the minute. And there may be a chance that, that Callum Wilson could be moved on. But with him being injured at the moment, Wilson, I'm not too sure if he will be moved on in this window or not. But looking at it, this is a really good deal. William Osula, he looks really good, and he's pretty tall as well. It's 6'4", 6'5", and he's only 20 years old, so he's still got time to grow yet, so he could get even taller. And he's got some pace to him as well, so a really good really good deal there. And you can't argue with it. At the end of the day, it's going to be a fantastic deal to see somebody come in that is arguably going to be a backup player. He's obviously not going to be first choice. Isak's the first choice, but he's going to come in, he's going to be a backup player, and he's going to do something for it. If he can score maybe 5-10 goals this season, then that is enough. It's contributing to the club, it's contributing to moving the team forward. At the end of the day, he's not going to be an absolute world beater, or he could be, we don't know. But there's a lot of people out there that's been complaining about this deal, saying that, oh, why aren't we going for the big names? Well, not every signing has to be a big name. Look at some of the players that we have signed. Nobody really knew Bruno before he joined Newcastle United. Nobody really knew, well, everybody knew Anthony Gordon, but they didn't really see the Anthony Gordon that they're seeing at Newcastle because, it was in there, but the staff at Everton just weren't good enough to be able to get that kind of player out. It's taken, what has happened at Newcastle to get that out of him. As we've seen with the likes of Joe Linton, we've seen with the likes of Murphy, we've seen with the likes of Miggy as well when he had his purple patch. We've seen it with other players. It's just the Eddie Howe effect. He just seems to have a way, and his coaching staff seem to have a way of getting the best out of the players, and getting that true inner talent that is there, and just needs to be unearthed. And hopefully William Osula will get the same benefits, of course, that the other players have had as well, by being coached by Eddie Howe. The news today, however, in the big news, this is absolute massive just out of nowhere news today is that David Ornstein is saying Newcastle have, of course, opened negotiations with Crystal Palace to sign Mark Guehi. Now, I've got to say, I am absolutely blown away with this one. This would be an absolutely fantastic signing. This is a statement signing. Don't play it down or anything, because this is definitely a statement signing. 24-year-old Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace. He was literally England's best centre-back at the Euros, just gone there. And he is massively regarded by Crystal Palace. I'm sure Palace are going to want to have a pretty decent fee for Mark Guehi, probably around about the 50 to 60 million mark, for the lad. And I think he's worth every penny of it. Looking at what we're seeing at the Euros of Mark Guehi, he has been absolutely fantastic. He did brilliant last season for Crystal Palace as well in the league. And he can play in that right centre-back position as well, where we are trying to find a player that can come in to be a replacement for Fabian Schär, because Schär is getting towards the latter end of his career now. It is probably about time that we do start looking for somebody to come in as a replacement. And for me, Mark Guehi would be that replacement. 24 years old. You look at the back line, if we were to get him in, you'd have Tino Livramento, Guehi, Bartman and Hall. That is a fantastic back four, a very young back four, and three of England's back four as well, future back four of England, and three of them would be playing for Newcastle United. And of course, not to mention the possible future Dutch captain in Sven Botman as well. So it would be a massive deal, massive statement signing by Newcastle, and I'll be well and truly happy to see this lad join Newcastle, because he's just showed some absolutely brilliant play, some brilliant determination as well last season for Crystal Palace. At the Euros, he was fantastic. He didn't even put a foot wrong in the Euros. He was just absolutely flawless, brilliant defender. And to see him join Newcastle would be absolutely amazing. Also, what can add a little bit of credibility to this as well, and a little bit more that hopefully could happen, is the fact that, we've seen a video England put out during the tournament where he was asked what is the best ground he's ever played in. Now, excluding Selhurst Park, of course, the host said he did say that the best ground he's ever played in is St James's Park. How loud it was, the atmosphere, how difficult it was as well. And he said that it would be, of course, St James's Park. And then there's the little interviews as well that Anthony Gordon and Mark Guehi had for England during the Euros as well, where Anthony Gordon was asked who he would want out of the current England setup to be a partner at Newcastle, and he did say Mark Guehi. And then Mark Guehi said this in the interview as well about, St James's Park. So there's credibility there, there's links there, there's a lot, that can connect this deal to being a one, that would definitely be complete. And then Ornstein himself coming out and saying it. Ornstein is a very credible journalist as well. He never really gets anything wrong. He's always right on the button with his reports and his journalism as well. So there's a lot here to talk about on this deal, but it will be a massive signing. Mark Guehi, 24 years old, and coming into Newcastle United as well would be absolutely brilliant. Let us know your thoughts anyway down in the comments below. I don't want this video to go on for too long, but let us know. Would you take Mark Guehi in Newcastle United? What's your thoughts on the Will Osula deal as well? And I'll see you all in the next one. Farewell, lads.